Hey, what's up, everybody? Just thought I would make a little bit of a quick review update. Um, it's a package from Poland, one that I was expecting to take a lot longer than anticipated. But surprisingly, coming all the way from Poland, it did not take as long as I originally anticipated. I was a little bit disappointed, but I'm totally happy and pleased that I was wrong. Anywho, this is from Puppetswar. Arthur over there was nice enough to send me a couple of goodies. I saw the Enforcer model that they had posted on their Facebook page a couple days back and commented on how amazing it was, and I asked him if he would allow me the honor of painting it for him, and he said, yeah, sure. So here we have it. I'm going to go ahead and lay out all the pieces, and then we'll go through and give the rundown of what's included and what all we got here. See you in a second. Okay, so got all the parts laid out, and I just wanted to quickly note that everything that you see here is the Enforcer kit as it comes direct from Puppetswar. These two assault cannon miniguns and these two flamethrower magma cannons, if you will, and magnet set I actually purchased in addition to the kit because I wanted to kind of showcase this really neat thing that they do with all of the miniatures, and that's this magnet socket system. They try to include this on just about all of their bits and parts as well as their kits. Anything that can have a weapon is either going to have some way to interchange it, either just by swapping out a gun barrel or something like that, or the weapon itself will have these slots for you to put in 3mm magnets. The nice thing about the website is that they tell you specifically which size of magnet they recommend for that. So if you're somebody like me who's pretty bad when it comes to magnets and you want to get better, it's kind of neat that they tell you flat out which size you're going to need so that there's not a lot of guesswork. And you know which drill bit size you need so that you can go ahead and get those magnetized on there. We'll start by looking at the main kit itself. You'll see here what I was talking about previously about having these connection points with the magnetized bits. The arms just use a ball socket and joint, so it's not something that you magnetize, but that's mostly because the arms themselves come in this one style or one other one that has the same ball socket system. So really it just comes down to a personal preference, because in the end each of these arms is going to have another little socket point for you to magnetize the parts or the weapons that are going to be attaching to it. So for example, again, here we've got on these two arms the same size connection point. So if you apply a magnet here and then one here, they'll boop together, and then you'll have that arm. Now it's neat that they give you the two different spots, so if you do need, depending on what you're putting it, where you're magnetizing this at, it may actually fit better in the furthest position forward or in the one back, depending on your preference or what you're trying to do. So that's pretty cool. A note on these that I saw when I was browsing the website is that these barrels here, even though they are the main portion of the arm, like the forearm if you will, they don't have a magnet point, but that's because you can buy these in pairs relatively cheaply. So if you wanted to do arms with the claws like I did, you can do that. Or they also have some different style close combat weapons, and I believe that this can also act as a barrel for another weapon. So you would just attach that gun barrel to the front here. And I think that that's pretty neat as far as utility goes. Being able to connect stuff in different places however you want. It kind of also adds to that posability. Speaking of posability, the torso itself is on a big peg with the lower half, the waist portion of it, that just fits in there perfectly. And gotta hand it to them too, because the detail on this stuff is just super phenomenal. Look at that interior there. You can see all the different gears and all the wires and stuff. Or as I like to call it, the busy bits that make something really interesting when it's on the tabletop. Even on the arms, you can see all the cabling, all the pneumatic stuff going on in there. Even the cooling vents and stuff like that. Looking back at the part that we were focused on, you can see all the detail in this hip joint and how it's supposed to sit. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to have to double check myself, I believe that you put the waist like this. It may go this way. I think it's probably a personal preference, to be honest with you. But the nice thing about this joint is once it's on there, you can kind of, I would recommend pinning it on both sides. Then before you actually glue them together, put that peg down like that. And then go ahead and glue your legs into the pose that you want. The neat thing about the legs is that they are the exact same leg used for both sides. So you don't really have this mix-up like you do with some companies, where if you accidentally put one on the other or vice versa, it looks kind of wonky and cross-legged. You can put them on whichever side you want. And because it's a ball and socket, you can get really kind of creative with the angle that you put it at. I'm very much a traditionalist, so I like to just kind of keep my robots in a standing pose or in a very simple sort of striding forward motion, so I might do something like that. I haven't really decided yet. But once you've committed to the position, you take these two little armor plates and you glue them on the outside like so, and they just pop right in. And because it's a ball and socket, if you really wanted to, although I guess this would be for the more adventurous, you could probably include some sort of like thruster or some sort of vernier, kind of like with Gundam kits, how they have boosters all over everywhere. One of my favorite things about them, but yeah. Really like that it's a multi-posable, even something like that. Just look at the detail on all this pneumatic work for the legs and the cabling and stuff like that. I mean, my hat's off to them for sure, because this is really clean, crisp work. You can even make out the rivets on the shield of the knee pad here. I think that's pretty neat, including some of the joint mechanics and stuff too. All this stuff will really stand out once you do your base layer and stuff like that, and then gloss it and maybe come back in with a panel line wash or something like that. Or for people that don't really want to mess with that, you could probably come back in with a Gundam marker or something and just kind of do your lines and stuff real quick if you didn't want to go through all that. But we do. Let's see, what else should we talk about on this guy? I think one of the big things, going back to what I was saying earlier, is all the different weapon swaps. Even though the kit itself is just the items that you see here, for about $6 or $7 US, you can get another pair of weapons, like these assault cannons, which, oh my goodness, look at the barrels. One of my favorite things when I'm doing assault cannons or anything for any game system, if it's got a gun, I really try to bore out the barrels, because I think it just adds that extra level of detail that really stands out. I really appreciate that they went ahead and did this and didn't just leave them filled in like some companies do. And then even the shell ejector and stuff like that, everything is really nicely detailed. There's even some really nice little detail on the muzzle. Flash suppressors, I think is what these would be, or some sort of exhaust for the gas. I'm sure at the rate of fire that this thing would be spitting rounds out at. But yeah, everything on it is just super, super crisp. You can see everything very clearly. Very, very little in the way of mold lines, which I appreciate, especially with resin, because, you know, resin is always a bit of a pain to work with. You always got to be safe and wear your mask, or if you're like me, just wear a bandana. Naughty, I know. Check this out. So this, I don't know if you can see this real clearly. This is that Magma Cannon or Flame Cannon, whatever you want to call it. You can see the fuel canister here, and then you can see all the piping and everything underneath there. And then if you hold it up like this, this is where we start to get really detailed. Look at that. The muzzles are split, so the barrels are kind of beveled off, which I think is just so friggin' cool. I mean, for them to be able to get that level of detail out of the sculpt really speaks to the quality of the 3D design and then the casting process that they use. So I'm really excited to get, more than anything, into all these nooks and crannies and stuff and really see how they come out with the wash, and then maybe with some like burning effects and stuff on the front to kind of simulate damage or something, or maybe not damage, but just kind of like how metal tends to blue as it gets hotter. So yeah, and then they also sell the magnets, so you don't even have to fuss with that. And like I said, they tell you which size you need, so all you have to do is find out which size it is and then buy the appropriate magnets. These magnets, I believe it was like something in the neighborhood of like $6 to $10. I can't remember right now. I'll have to look at my receipt. Very inexpensive for as many magnets as you get. This is definitely more than enough to do this project. I just didn't have any magnets at all. So I will definitely be able to do this and any other future projects that I pick up from them, which it's safe to say that I will definitely be getting more from them. Oh, something I forgot to touch on. In the fuselage, or in the torso area, the chest area, you have two different head options. So the one that I think some people may overlook is sort of like a canopy style. To me, it's reminiscent of like a mech from Mech Warrior or Battletech, if some people are familiar with that. But I really like the depth that they've got on the actual canopy, so you can just kind of paint in the blue of the glass and then go back in and redo all of your different panels. But if you don't want to do that, there's this other option. So if you want to showcase all this stuff off, this is the one that I recommend. And it's this sort of Crusader style helmet or head that just really kind of completes the look of the guy. Kind of looks a bit like a frame from Armored Core, if anybody remembers that game. But using this head, and this is definitely the one that I'm going to use because I want to be able to do all the details in here, really lets you get all the nooks and crannies and stuff with that stuff. And it's even got details on the sides and the top and the back. So if you, no matter which angle you pose this guy at, you're going to have something fun to paint, and I really, really appreciate that. Still haven't decided on a paint scheme yet. I was hoping that as soon as I saw this thing, something was going to jump out at me, and I think I want to do it in some very muted grays and stuff, not necessarily something super gaudy. I kind of want this thing to look a bit like a like a fighter jet from from a modern military, from like the U.S. Navy or from something like that. So maybe like some grays and blues and stuff like that. Really utility colors, not so much, you know, hey, look at me, I'm part of X Army, bright colors and stuff like that. And then for the visor, I can totally see this in like a really bright, shiny gold, like a reflective gold, kind of like how you see on some of the space shuttle parts, just to kind of stand out against the dark gray of everything else. But anyway, that's it for this little review. If anybody has some comments or questions about this stuff, feel free to leave them below and I will try to answer them as best as possible. Or if you have a suggestion for the painting scheme or something that I should do, feel free to leave it below or shoot me a message about it. All right? Catch you guys later. Take care.